Hey guys, we're out here in the garden again, and today we're going to talk about seeds. Let's head out into the garden and see if we can find any seeds out there. Come on. So over here we have a plant. This is called a primrose, an evening primrose, and as you can see, look at all this stuff on the path underneath it. I think those are seeds. And some of you guys have probably done this before, but I'm gonna find some of the seeds that are in here. If I just, whoa! You see that? Look at all those seeds. Let me do another one. So I'm just taking the flower stalk that's dead, turning it upside down. Those are all seeds from this plant. And they're not very big at all. Let's find some more. Over here we have our mullein plants. Look at how tall they are, they're huge. Now these have tons of seeds inside of them. Each one of these little things was a flower. Or you can see better now. Each one of these little things was a flower. And so now we open it up. See those? Those are all the seeds. Looks like sand. They're so tiny. So these are some of the seeds from the mullein. Look at how tiny they are. They're like sand. Each one of those little teeny tiny seeds could grow into a plant that is taller than me. It's really big. Pretty cool. All right, what about one of these seed pods? See them up there? Let's see if I can reach one. There we go. There's seeds in that thing. They're gonna be a little bit bigger than the other seeds we found. What else? Oh, what about these seeds over here? These are seeds from the fennel plant. So, as you can see, there are lots of seeds in the garden. Okay, so we're back at our table. Here's our tray with all the really teeny tiny seeds that we found, and then some of the bigger seeds. So, these are the fennel seeds. These are pretty large. Each one of those will grow into a fennel plant. And then here's our scarlet runner bean seed pod. These are really fun. Whoa, look at those beans. Isn't that a cool color? These are really neat. Oops. There they are, scarlet runner beans. You guys grew them in the garden. And then we also have corn that you guys grew. Look at that. Wow. So each one of these corn kernels is a seed that could grow into a new corn plant. And then also something else you guys also grew is wheat. So the wheat is interesting. It's a little bit different from some of the other seeds. Let me see if I can break one open for you and show you where the actual seed is. Oops. It's inside here. Let me get it open. You have to take all the husks off. And there it is. That is a kernel of wheat. They call them wheat berries. And so if you took that and planted it, you would get another wheat plant. Or if you took it and ground it into flour, you could make bread, you could make cinnamon rolls, muffins, whatever you want. So those are some of the seeds from the garden. Okay, so here I have a bunch of different kinds of seeds. Some are big, Some are kind of medium and some are really, really tiny. So what I want you guys to do this week at home is see if you can find a seed at your house to draw. Okay, and you're going to do a scientific illustration of a seed. So here I have an example. I did one of these, a scarlet runner bean seed, and here's my drawing of it. Okay, so I've labeled it scientific illustration, scarlet runner bean. I have today's date, and I drew my bean, and I used the ABCs of scientific illustration. So accurate, big, colorful, detailed, and explained. So I did my drawing accurate. I drew only what I saw on my seed, and I tried to draw everything that I saw about my seed. If you wanted, you could do more than one view like we did with our flowers. I just did one view, but if your seed has different sides, like I could have drawn, or maybe I still will on the next page, I could have drawn this view of my seed to show that little white spot better. So I also drew my seed big because lots of seeds are small. And in order to really be able to tell what we're looking at, it's nice to draw things bigger than they are in real life. So if you have a magnifying glass, that can really help you here. Also colorful. My seed has lots of color on it. So I drew the color in my picture. Some seeds are not very colorful. That's okay. You want to do accurate color, right? And details. I did detail on my bean because the speckling is very detailed. Different seeds have different looks, so it just depends on the seed that you decide to draw. And the last one is E for explained. And I put labels. I labeled my scarlet runner bean because that's the kind of seed it is. If you don't know what kind of seed yours is, that's okay. You could describe where you found it, or maybe you could ask somebody. If you found your seed in the kitchen, your parents might know what it is, your grown-ups might know what it is. I also labeled the size. The actual bean size is 5/8 of an inch long, so you can see that the drawing I did is much larger than it is in real life. So besides my drawing, I've added some other stuff on the side here. The first one says, I notice, and there's space for 3 things underneath it. So I want you guys to make 3 different observations about your seed. Now, observations are information that you get from using your senses. So you could use your sense of touch, your sense of sight. You could use your sense of hearing. Sometimes seeds make sounds. And I want you to make 3 observations using your senses about your seed. 3 things that you notice about your seed. Now, if you say something like, I notice my seed is a bean, that's not really an observation because that doesn't have anything to do with your senses. That's like a classification. A bean is a classification. So you want to make observations. Also, if you say something like, I notice my seed is really gross, that's not an observation either, because that's how you feel about it. So we're not talking about feelings or classifications. We're talking about observations. 3 observations about your seed. Also, the next thing is 3 questions. 3 things that you wonder about your seed. I wonder why it has that little white spot right there. And I wonder why it's purple. I wonder why it's speckly. There's so many questions you could come up with for your seed. You can do more than 3, but try and do at least 3. And then the last one is I want you to make 3 different connections to things you already know about your seed. So it reminds me of 3 things that your seed reminds you of. This one to me, because it's speckled, it reminds me of some animals like a horse, a speckled horse, an Appaloosa horse. Or I think maybe there are some pigs that are speckled too. And it kind of has a little pig shape if you just put legs and a tail on that end and ears and a snout over here. So make 3 connections with your seed, 3 things that your seed reminds you of. Okay, so last week I asked you, why would plants make fruit for us to eat? And the reason has to do with seed dispersal. So plants have a lot of different strategies for getting their seeds to disperse. So they have a lot of different ways of getting their seeds to spread around. And here we have 4 different strategies that they use, and one of them is edibles. So some plants make fruit that is edible, that people want to eat or animals want to eat. And then that helps their seeds get spread around. Because if somebody eats the fruit that was around this pit, they're going to take it with them. Maybe they're going to be walking around, and then when they're done eating, they're going to throw the pit, and then a new tree will be able to grow from the seed. Here's some other edible seeds: beans, corn, sunflowers, all this kind of stuff. If it's edible and animals like mice or squirrels or birds are moving this around, maybe they're taking it from the plant and they're stashing it somewhere, maybe in an old tree stump, or they're burying it underground. Squirrels will bury stuff in the ground. That's the perfect thing. It's like they're planting the seeds. So animals help disperse the seeds. Or like berries, blackberries, birds like to eat berries, and then they fly around, and when they poop, the seeds come out in their poop in a new place for the plant to grow. So that's one strategy that the plants use to get their seeds to spread around. Another strategy is they use the power of the wind. So these seeds are from the big cypress trees just behind the office. And let's see if you guys can watch what happens when I drop this seed. Woo! You see how it's spinning? So this seed travels on the wind, and there are lots of seeds that travel on the wind, and they don't all spin. Some of them just float. Some seeds are really fluffy and they float on the wind. That's another way to get your seeds around. This strategy is really cool. Exploding seeds. So here I have some seed pods of plants that have exploding seeds, and they're all open. So these are wisteria seed pods. Here's one. You can see how it's connected. But when the weather warms up, the pods will pop open and the seeds will fly out. These are from poppy plants. They do the same thing. The pods are all closed up, and then when it gets hot and dry, they pop open and the seeds explode out. The 4th strategy is called hitchhiker seeds. So these are the kind of seeds where if you go for a hike, you might have something poking you in your sock and you've got a seed stuck in there, a sticker poking you. So that's another way to get the seeds to move around. Here's another one. This one's called a burr clover that can get stuck in your sock, or it could get stuck in animal's fur. These seeds also work with animal fur. Your dog, maybe you've taken your dog for a walk and they've gotten seeds stuck in their fur, or other animals. So these are all different ways for seeds to disperse or get around. So I want to know, why do seeds want to disperse? Why do plants want to disperse their seeds? What's the big deal? So you can answer me that question. All right, guys, so here's what I want for next week. I want to see your scientific illustration of a seed. I want to see your 3 observations for I notice, 3 questions for I wonder, and 3 connections for it reminds me of. And also I want to see your ideas for why do you think plants disperse their seeds. All right, guys, have a great week, and I'll see you next time.